Hello and welcome to the All 12 Signs video series for the Leo new moon. Now, firstly, I want to apologize for the delay in getting these out. I had quite a cat went missing last week. I talk about it in part one of this transit. It felt like some big themes were coming through with that, and I've just spent the last week obviously on cat watch, and it's been quite a heartbreaking experience, but also calling me to lean into surrendering and acknowledging you can only do the best that you can without sort of going through all the different details of what should have, woulda, coulda, and that sort of energy. So I talk about that in part one, and those themes have shown up in the readings as well. So you might want to go and check that out. But I work with 6 month cycles, so what comes through in these readings are taking you up to the Leo full moon. So you're not missing out on any of the messages. I'll also be pre-shuffling, simply because regulars, my videos are for each sign, usually around an hour long per transit, and I'm just really mindful of conserving my energy with everything else that's going on. So I'm all the cards will be pre-shuffled before the reading. I'm trying to keep them short as well. So I hope you don't mind that that's what's going on, but I just very much needed to protect my energy. And there's also a competition. There's 3 readings up for grabs, and all the details are in the description boxes of every video. It started with the Mercury retrograde cycle. Today, Mercury went retrograde as well, so we're embodying the energy. The moon is still in Leo, I think I mentioned that, so it's all in alignment. You can answer the question as many times as you want, and there will be 3 mini readings up for grabs. So I'm going to be reading for Aquarius, Capricorn and Sagittarius in this video. I hope you enjoy what comes through. Aquarius rising. How you doing, Aquarius? So for those of you who might not have caught the introduction, I've had a little bit of, well, quite a big tragedy happen over the last week, which is the reason why these video series is a delay in it, and it's also the reason why I've pre-shuffled. I'm being very conscious of my energy. I've gone, it's been a very hectic, grief-stricken, all sorts of things week. I talk about this in the introduction of part one, and the reason why I'm referencing it is because some of those themes that I talk about have shown up in the readings, so it kind of feels a bit archetypal. And some of you might have been going through something similar, because this very much feels like a closing out of karmic cycles, because the situation that happened this past week happened to me in my 20s, almost identical. And it's quite, it's one of those, anyway, I talk about it there. So you might want to go and watch that before watching this. And so, as I said, I'm pre-shuffling just because I'm trying to keep these videos short. I'm very mindful of my time and my energy right now, and trying to respect that. The moon is still in Leo, and I work with 6 month cycles, so you're not missing out on anything. I read for the rising signs, so for those of you who don't have Aquarius in the first house, look to the house that it does fall in your natal chart. Look to the themes of that house and anything else you've got going on in the sign of Aquarius. You want to apply all of that meaning to the messages that come through in these cards and the astrology. It will be as if that Aquarius energy, wherever it falls in your chart, has now energetically moved to the first house. So the astrology for the rising sign will still link in. So speaking of the rising sign, where is this happening for you, Aquarius risings? Well, it's opposite your sign, isn't it? The sign of Leo, and this is in your 7th house. Now, the 7th house is the house of the other. This is about one-to-one intimate relationships, important dynamics in your life, right? And this can be business partners, clients, one-to-one clients, your therapist, intimate friends, long-term committed romantic relationships, as well as your relationship with source. It's linked into contracts, which is why marriage shows up in the 7th. Obviously, we've evolved beyond the standardization of marriage, but there's this sense of commitment, right? Of stepping up to the plate with the other. So you've had this new moon here, and with the sun being there, there's a focal point on this area of your life. What does this all mean to you? Often find the 7th house transits can show up as what's going on with the other in your life, right? How is the other being affected? What you're drawn to in the other, how you show up for the other, as well as how you understand yourself in regards to the other. So we've got this big new moon, a fresh new beginning, and this moon is it just goes just beyond the degree and the minute that Venus ended her retrograde in that sign last summer. So we are closing out a bigger cycle around what we've been working on in terms of that Venus retrograde over the last year, because this moon is just beyond that. So it's really highlighting on, and we're stepping into a new frequency around the Venusian energy, from the other for you Aquarius rising. I did a Venus in Leo retrograde series, so if you can't quite remember what was going on, maybe go check that out. But definitely whenever Venus is retrograde, she's calling us to really get back into our own power when it comes to love, desire, pleasure, connection, right? So it makes her very independent rather than conforming. So you may have found over the last year certain relationship dynamics where you're stepping more into your power over that, and perhaps some of them have fallen away, or you've been questioning, okay, what do I truly want from the other? And now this new moon is elevating that journey. What else is going on? Well, let's talk about where Venus is actually, as we mentioned Venus. So, by the way, there's a collective reading where I break down the astrology in way more detail. And that's an imprint that then works with this lunation over the next 6 months. I'm not going to go into it in so much detail here. As I said, I'm trying to conserve the energy. Otherwise, I'll be talking for an hour. But I break down more of it in that reading, so if you want to go check that out, do so. And also did a collective tarot reading. Venus was at 29 degrees of Leo, so the final degree of Leo. This is very closely conjunct a fixed star called Regulus. And Regulus is the king, is the queen, is the feeling very empowered, knowing your own divinity, knowing your own sovereignty. And so I really like that Venus was there at the time of this moon, in the same sign as the moon, influencing the way that we move through the world over the next 6 months, right? It's going to take time to unfold, but I really like that empowerment. Now, what else is going on with this moon? One of the major aspects, there aren't many direct aspects to the sun and the moon for this lunation, but the main one is a sextile with Mars and Jupiter over in the sign of Gemini. A sextile is an aspect of Venus. So all of those Venusian qualities, connection, appreciation, value, love, harmony, creativity, flow, is all infused into this moon. It's a soft, easy, free-flowing energy that we have here with the greater benefic, Jupiter and Mars. Now, Mars is coming into a conjunction with Jupiter. And so, this is all in your 5th house of your creation energy, your house of joy, your pleasure, your amusement, your games, it's linked into children, both literal children, maybe you work with some, your own children, your inner child, or creative things you birth into the world that feel like children. It's also linked into romance, dating, and love. So we have the 2 houses that can very much focus on that area of the human condition that are showing up with this moon. And so Mars and Jupiter coming into conjunction. What I felt with this is that Mars can be quite impulsive, especially in Gemini, but conjunct with Jupiter is very full of wisdom, right? It elevates, it inspires, it has a bigger picture perspective on things. It's also very generous of spirit. It's a very jovial energy. It's a feel-good energy. So with Mars and Jupiter, there's sort of 2 messages here of one, being able to observe our actions, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly, and really perceive wisdom from those very quickly, right? So say something not necessarily negative happens, but our action leads to a bit of like discordian energy. Very quickly, we're going to see the wisdom behind it and understand the higher perspective. As well as our instinctive actions, our motivation and drive in alignment with this expansion energy of Jupiter in your creativity, in your joy, in your pleasure, and really raising that up. And I can see a connection around the inner child and impulsive actions that come from the inner child based on, perhaps some difficult energy around that. Just getting the inner child getting a higher perspective, right? Of around your pleasure, around your creation energy, around love and dating and all of those things, and just really elevating that. And as this unfolds, your actions are going to funnel through that in regards to how you connect with the other. Now, this can be with a business partner, right? And you have a creative brainstorming. You're thinking of the next stage of your business. This could see more connection with clients where you're able through your actions and wisdom to bring them joy through whatever modality it is that you're doing, or help heal inner child work, all of those themes combined. You might find yourself having more fun and momentum with intimate friends, with lovers, as well as connecting to source through your actions, through your wisdom, from this place of joy and creativity, from the heart space. So there's a lot going on there. And this is obviously a new moon that's unfolding. So let's get on with the tarot. There's other stuff going on, but as I said, that's all in the collective reading. Now, this is one of the most clearest readings I've had in a very long time, Aquarius. So we have, for the intention of the moon, right, the download that you're getting that will then unfold over the next 6 months. What is the intention of that download? We've got the King of Wands, very big Leo energy. We have the Seven of Cups, and we have the Lovers, which is Gemini. Now this screams, know what you want. Dream big and connect. So the King of Wands, fire is very instinctive in its nature. There's something about a maturity and a sovereignty coming through for your energy, that your instincts are going to be leveling up around the other, around your understanding of what it is that you want from the other and how you want to give to the other. And that can come in many, many different forms. Kings are sovereign, they're mature, so there's a big leveling up around that, and your capacity to take action on that, that is coming from a very instinctive place, very empowering energy coming through here in regards to, one, how you understand yourself with the other, your connection to it, and the actions that you take on it. I can see your instincts being more in alignment with source and your co-creation. And then we have the Seven of Cups, and this is the big fantasy energy, the big dreaming energy. This is calling for you to go beyond your limitations around the other. So and I know what's coming, so I'm trying not to preempt it, that it is really calling you to step into a different framework in an emotional sphere, right? Going beyond old patterns, old emotional connections, and calling you to think in different ways and connect to that, connect to love in different ways. This is also my channeling card. So for some of you, this can be a very clear message around connecting to source and activating a higher level of channeling. But overall, this also could be options, having lots of different options as well for some of you. But overall, it is saying through these instinctive actions, there's something about a dream and a fantasy and this exploration coming more into your reality. And then we have the Lovers, right? So this, very straightforwardly is about union. So this is, through this, you are coming into a state of union with the other. And this is like the higher vibrational level of the Two of Cups. It's major arcana, right? So this is a big energy around connection and your perception around it, because it's Gemini, which is an air energy. So that Gemini energy, your creativity, your joy, your pleasure, the romance, the love, and also the creativity with it, as you know, I said, with clients, business partners, however it is that it's resonating with you. This intention of this moon is bringing things together, right? From a sort of a higher frequency. The Lovers is also about union within yourself, the masculine, feminine, and spirit, in order to make the right decisions when you come to crossroads. So that's adding on the layer with that King of Wands of a level of maturity in how you engage with the other, right? And sort of maybe having a spidey sense around what dynamics are working, what relationships are serving your soul and their soul in the longer term. So you can climb that mountain together. Really powerful stuff. And then the challenge and how to work with it. You got a bonus card. We have the 7 of Wands. Which feels like the challenge. How to work with it is the 8 of Swords in reverse. This happens to be Jupiter and Gemini, so that's very appropriate. The Hermit card and the 2 of Cups. So we've got the Lovers and the 2 of Cups showing up. So the 7 of Swords. Oh, there's all sorts of messages coming through with this one. For me, this card, this figure is on the higher ground. They have something of value, but I always look at the faces, and this face looks so nervous, so unsteady, so uncertain about their value and their love. So for some of you, it might not be all of you, and if you're not really feeling it, there may be something deep in the unconscious going on around not knowing your own value and truly embodying it, which may mean that sort of recreated relationships that highlight that uncertainty of value. This figure is also all alone. It's not feeling like you're getting the support, like you're the only one having to fight off these wands, right? Rather than a union and a partnership. So there's this sense of isolation of you doing it all by yourself. You know, Aquarius, you're very independent. They're sort of fighting off union, fighting off this sense of connection, perhaps an underlying fear of you know, we can get so used to not loving ourselves. I'm just condensing it really smallly. I could expand on that we then push anybody else away, or we're just stuck in this space of, oh, that's never for me, right? I'm always going to be, you know, the lone warrior fighting off the competition. I'm not necessarily competition in this sense, but fighting off other energies, right? So when this card shows up as the challenge, it's calling you to really, really go deep and truly know that you are valued, that you are loved, that you are source, unconditionally, and that you have something of value. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of like that strong, intimate connection. There's also an element of conflict here, and we've got the 5 of Swords in reverse at the bottom of the deck, and this is big conflict energy. So this moon essentially is releasing this, releasing the sense of hierarchies, of dominion, there's always something where it's not quite working out. It's one of the most, for me, it's the most difficult card in the tarot, but it's in reverse. So there's something around here of trying to step out of conflict and also being in observation. Remember, this is very closely in alignment with the Mercury retrograde, which is calling us to pause and observe of what brings up conflict in your life. Even if you think you're calm, what situations then, for whatever reason, always sort of turn into a bit of conflict, and reflect on that. So how to work with it? The 8 of Swords in reverse, the Hermit, and the 2 of Cups. 8 of Swords in reverse, as I said, Jupiter and Gemini. This is acknowledging that there are some limiting beliefs going on, right? Some ideas, some constructs, some perceptions that have kept you feeling quite safe, right? You know, when we're in confined spaces, there is an element of protection, isn't there? But there is no cage. Everything is an illusion, as difficult as sometimes that can be. But in reverse, this is calling you to acknowledge that there are some limiting beliefs, there are some things that have kept you small, kept you restricted in your ability to expand when it comes to the other, that are going to be falling away, but this is for you to be mindful of them. And also perhaps do a meditation with this card in reverse, see what comes up, and then perhaps spend some time working on it. We then have the Hermit. This is Virgo energy, and Virgo is in your 8th house of where the relationship dynamics show up, right? So this is the give and take of it all. And this is highlighting of reflecting, right? The Hermit goes inward to understand its own wisdom about relationship dynamics, about giving and receiving, and what does that make you feel? Because that came very, very loudly through in the collective reading about we are working through a big cycle around being able to receive and give in a very harmonious way. So this is calling you to really go inward and seek inner wisdom, to understand yourself. The Hermit isn't bothered about what the society thinks of it. And so it is asking you to spend a little bit of inner reflection during this to help work through this energy. We also have the Star here, which is your card. So there's something around the reflection of the embodiment of self that needs a little bit of a look at. And then we have the Two of Cups. And so this is about union. This is about equality. And so it's so interesting that comes after the Hermit, which is the 8th house for you in Virgo. This is about respect, honor, dignity, equality, and love. The desire to come together, desire to exchange those cups. But there is no hierarchical system here. This is all about hierarchy. So there's something about getting out of your own way, about expectations, about how the other shows up, and really recalibrating and honoring how you show up, and observing and honoring the individual journey of the other, and how to compromise. It's also causing you to focus on the intention around union from this space of respect and equality, right? We've got the masculine, feminine, and spirit again. There's an inner union within yourself, respecting all the parts of yourself, loving yourself truly, madly, deeply. And also, as I said, calling in that intention around union, and that sense of notice where there's imbalance, notice where there's hierarchical structures, notice where there's judgment and criticism. Virgo can very much fall into that space. Notice where it's kind of like my way or the highway. To really then peel back those layers of like, okay, what do I truly need, right? What's really at my root important? How to amplify the energy. We have of the intention, we have the 7 of Pentacles, the 6 of Swords, and the Knight of Cups. So this is about tending to something, figuring something out, but being really dutiful to the growing seeds that are coming up, right? The vegetables that are taking their time, but it is about the daily effort without expecting results. And I feel like this is you tending to your new landscape, right? If, when you're gardening, sometimes you turn over the soil, you turn everything up, you put compost in there, you put new intentions in there with that new moon of the uncovering of what's going to come up as you've turned things over, in terms of like pulling back those layers, figuring out where this is impacting you, right? And then tending to that on a daily basis. And also this is about putting in hard work, putting in a bit of dedication to this process. For some of you who are already in romantic relationships or in this element of other and partnership, this is calling you, like there's a new cycle coming in. This is like being really open to the process of it slowly unfolding, but also showing up. This is also, right, this is saying show up, basically show up. And there's a lack of patience. There's it's calling for patience as well. And then we have the Six of Swords. So, you know, after the sort of the tending and figuring out what's going on, what you truly feel, the Six of Swords is about taking with you from difficult times to calmer waters core perspectives, right? Core ideas, core principles that serve you in a state of thriving rather than a state of survival. So there is really a clear reflection on figuring out, getting beyond this and beyond the limiting beliefs, and coming to a real centered space within yourself about the you know, the sort of the confident expansion of your capacity to be in a state of union, right? So often we learn love languages from our parental figures or certain situations that just form our understanding of what love is, and it's very limiting in its scope. This feels like a breakout from limitations. And then we have the Knight of Cups, which is so perfect. And this is calling you. So knights embody their suit, they embody their element. So this is calling you to step into a flow, to be the true romantic, right? To follow that love, follow that intuition, and allow that to move through your body, and try and cultivate that energy within you, you know, rather than perhaps a bit of a jaded energy, you know, with that Seven of Wands of like, oh, I'm all by myself. The Knight of Cups is following that love. It's open to that expansion, to that connection. Now, I say all that being very mindful that this process is not with the expectation and assumption of calling these dynamics in and they're going to show up immediately. It is all about you, actually, and how this is going to serve you and your interaction with the world, however that shows up. Because all of your charts are obviously going to be different. You're going to have different sort of timelines, but this is about empowerment through love and understanding that you have the capacity to go beyond whatever formation it is that's been blocking you. So we got an oracle card from the Shaman's Dream Oracle, and it's in the hand, which is funny because it's the Gemini in the 5th house of creation energy. The universe is your partner. So this is sort of amplifying the fact that the 7th house is also your relationship with Source, and Source is with you always, and to never forget that. And I think that's going to be a really important part of this expansion, is that understanding that Source is always there. Feeling secure, taken care of, the universe is your partner. Something amazing happens when you contemplate your intimate relationship with your higher power. How do you engage it? Perhaps you might have seen things through the influence of your religious background, or you may have been exposed to other ways of making that connection real for you. It doesn't matter the source of your understanding. What matters is what works for you. For example, if you believe in a punitive God, you'll be afraid of punishment for your transgressions. If you believe in a version of a higher power that blesses you, you may find it easier to surrender to a relationship of radical trust. Right now, if you imagine relaxing, I mean, this figure is not in trust mode at all. So there's something there around going through a slow process of allowing yourself to trust again. Right now, if you imagine relaxing, curled up in the hands of the divine, how does that make you feel? Can you then turn over your needs and desires to the divine power and trust that you're safe and secure and don't have to do anything at all to feel that way? Grace is activated in your life now. You're in good hands. Your work, family, relationships, home, everything. You've done all that you can. So now is the time to rest and recharge instead of producing, doing, acting, strategizing. A hot tea, a good book, and a soft blanket are in order. What a lovely message. And I love that element of rest. We do have the Hermit. So a sense of inner reflection. You know, I've talked about doing lots of different things, but it's not a busy energy. It's just that sort of slow, undulating daily practice. Well, Aquarius, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope it resonated. If it did, don't forget to hit the like button. There is a competition. All the details are in the description box, so don't forget to enter that as well. If you want a personal reading, all my details are on the YouTube page, on the description box. And Aquarius, be good to yourselves, be good to those around you, safe travels, and be well until we meet again. Capricorn rising, how you doing, Capricorn? So I've left an introduction in part 1 where I've broken words. I apologize for the delay in getting these videos out. I've had a cat go missing, and from last week, and it's been quite heavy, and I'm very mindful of my energy, and so this is why everything's pre-shuffled. Regulars, you know that I don't usually do that. I also talk about what's happened in part 1 of this transit, and the reason why I'm mentioning it is just because I feel so far in a lot of the readings, some of the themes that have happened through my own experience, I felt like have shown up in the readings. So you might want to go and check that out. You may have gone through something similar. It's just because what happened is almost identical to what happened to me in my 20s. Very similar situation with a cat. And it's so similar. I just can't avoid the fact that there's stuff going on around crunching karmic timelines going on. That you might want to just go watch it before watching this. Anyway, I do apologize for the delay. I work with 6-month cycles, so the messages that come through in this reading are for you to work with until the Leo full moon. So you're not missing out on anything. There's a collective reading where I break down the astrology in way more detail. I also did a collective tarot in that video. I'm not going to talk about the astrology too much. As I said, I'm trying to keep these videos short, be mindful of my time and my energy, because haven't slept very well, haven't eaten very well, and just wanted to get these out, but also wanted to respect my space as well. So let's get on with it. So Capricorn rising. Oh, that reminds me, I read for the rising signs. So for those of you who have Capricorn elsewhere in your natal chart, look to where that falls, look to the house that it's in and the themes of that house. You want to apply those themes as well as all of the meaning you've got going on in Capricorn to the messages that come through, because it will be as if that Capricorn energy, wherever it falls in your chart, has energetically moved to the first house. The astrology for the rising sign will always link in. You just got to add on your natal chart meaning on top of it. So for Capricorn rising, where has this new moon happened? Well, the moon's still in Leo at the moment, so I'm trying to get the next video out as well, while the moon's still in Leo. That this is in your 8th house. Your 8th house is the house of the outside world's resources, right? This is can be mortgages, loans, taxes, bonuses, commissions, inheritance, both 3D and cosmic inheritance. And so it's sort of the resources of the outside world and working with them, as well as sort of more one-off chunks of resources. It's also relationship dynamics. For me, the 8th house is the give and exchange between anything other than yourself, right? Between you and anything other than yourself. You know, this is the capacity to give and receive, and the lens in which we do so. Time, money, energy, intimacy, ideas, all of that kind of thing. It is where relationship dynamics show up. It's a very magical house. Edgar Cayce, a very famous psychic, had a stellium up in the 8th because he was able to utilize the resources of source, right? Of the multidimensional sphere. So there's an element of that coming through as well. It's the house of transformation for various reasons. And one of them is through when we interact with other people, we are constantly in a state of transformation. The 8th house can have scarcity complexes, codependency, taking too much, giving too much. Those can be sort of the unintegrated energies, as well as being in harmonious flow and balance. So that's some big themes that are coming into play with this new moon and this new cycle. So let's get into the astrology. Well, this moon is happening just beyond the degree and the minute where Venus ended her retrograde last year, right? So it is closing out another cycle around everything that we have learned over the last year in regards to that Venus retrograde. I did a Venus in Leo retrograde series last year. You might want to go back and check it out, just to sort of recap the energy that was around. So this new moon is activating a new cycle with everything that we've learned in the old one. Of operating from that heart space, of like finding that love, that connection. And Venus at the time of this moon was at 29 degrees of Leo. This is very closely conjunct the fixed star Regulus. And Regulus is like the king, queen energy. You're knowing your sovereignty, knowing your divinity, being in your power, right? And I love that Venus was there, which is activating this cycle of us stepping into that in regards to the Leo energy, which operates from the heart, right? It rules the heart. So there's big themes around healthier relationship dynamics, healthier relationship with your understanding of abundance through the outside world, a deeper confidence within yourself, with your relationship with source. And one of the major, there aren't actually that many aspects to this moon. There's stuff going on in the skies, but very, very little direct aspects. The main one is Jupiter and Mars are in Gemini, and they are sextiling this new moon. Sextile is an aspect of Venus, all of those Venusian qualities: love, connection, desire, harmony, creativity, the grace and favor of Venus. And so very harmonious, soft, free-flowing energy from Jupiter and Mars. Now Jupiter is the greater benefic, the big yes planet. And Gemini for you is in your 6th house of work. It's your adult in the room. It's work, how you work, physical health, routines, co-workers, pets. Now the 6th house for me is incredibly important in having healthy relationships. If you don't understand how you work, how you figure things out, what's important to you to be the adult in the room, right? So often we can self-sacrifice ourselves for other people. And so we are no longer being the adult in the room for ourselves. We can neglect our health, our routines, our work, all of those things. Now, the fact that we've got Jupiter and Mars there is really empowering relationship dynamics that work, that mean you are not diminishing your healthier, mature responses for yourself, right? And so there's two main messages that are coming through with the Mars-Jupiter conjunction. They're not quite conjunct yet, but they're very close together. So Mars can be quite impulsive in Gemini, very fast moving. Think of the Knight of Swords. But Jupiter is about wisdom, the bigger perspective. It's about expansion and elevation. It's very generous of spirit, very jovial, opportunities, luck, abundance. So we've got two messages here. One, our actions, our motivations, our drive of Mars, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. Whatever's going on with our instinctive actions in this house, even if we're like, oh God, why did I do that? Jupiter is helping with this lunation cycle in regards to the themes of the 8th and the 6th together. This may also be a work project, collaborating with co-workers, where you're getting resources from the outside world as well. That we're going to have a very quick turnaround in our perception, in our wisdom of understanding why that happened, of learning whatever we need to learn from whatever that was. That's going to come very quickly, right? Gemini is a very fast moving energy. And so this is, again, understanding our perhaps impulsive reactions around codependency or giving and receiving, in terms of how that may negatively affect the 6th house. That's just one side of it. The other side of it is our actions being very embodied with wisdom, with a higher perspective. making sure that we are instinctively guided to take action around healthier lifestyles and therefore healthier relationship dynamics. And having the confidence to do so. Now, let's get in with the tarot. So the intention of the moon, the download that you got at the new moon that will unfold over the next 6 months. What is its intention? Six of Swords. Now, this came out and I put it back. And I was like, if it needs to come out, it will come out again. And it came out again. The Emperor and the Hierophant. Six of Swords is acknowledging that you've been in some difficult waters around your mindset, your perception, maybe words, maybe conversations, and you are heading into a landscape of thriving, right? And in this process, the intention of this moon is for you to know your core principles, your core perspectives around those relationship dynamics, around the house of the adult, that is going to serve you to thrive rather than stay in those choppy waters. That's taking you to a level of empowerment and commitment with yourself, with the people you interact with. This may be a longer term committed relationship for some of you, where it's now elevating the way that you work together, sense of co-collaboration. You become co-workers together. But we've got the Emperor. So this is saying you do not forget your needs, your wisdom, your autonomy, your sovereignty. Right? The intention of this moon is activating this power within yourself. Right? As I said, so often we can diminish our energy by interacting with others, and the reason why that happens is for us to learn and grow and evolve. And some of us have to go through several versions of the same thing in order to get the message. I'm just reflecting on most of my romantic relationships having very similar, the ones that were really important, the ones where I was in love, having very similar arcs. And finally, the last major one was like, oh, okay, I'm not doing that one again. But it takes a while to step into your sovereignty. And then we've got the Hierophant. And so this is about commitment. This is, it's about longevity. It's about tradition. It's about, being, it's Taurus energy, which for you is your creation energy, your pleasure, your joy, your amusement, your play. So there's something around a level of commitment that's also bringing in play and creativity. The Hierophant is also about being your own guru. This is your wisdom. And it's also the Pope. Oh, this is interesting. So this is the Pope, right? The mouth of God, with the 8th house of relationship with source, and you being a channel for that and being able to communicate that because you're getting in right way with yourself and not being in this sense of scarcity mindset. It also represents institutions. So there might be something for you, those of you who are like, I need a mortgage or I need whatever. This is an institutional card of that coming into availability. But this card is calling you to step into seeing the world as abundant, seeing resources, seeing relationships, seeing your exchange with anything other than yourself as a cause for a space of abundance, stepping into your power and a level of commitment to that. Now, the challenge and how to work with it. We have the 6 of Cups in reverse, the 4 of Swords, and the Knight of Pentacles. Now, when I saw these cards together, I was like, this follows the 5 of Cups, where we make peace with grief, right? We step beyond that. And this is about feeling safe, feeling secure. It's the biggest house in tarot, of understanding everything that's happened before is part of the capacity of then creating flowers, creating abundance. There's a sense of connection here, of giving and receiving. So that's all blocked, right? So there's a sense, this is going to be on a sliding scale for you all. But this is calling you to be an awareness of the illusion that this is your reality. So a lot of these difficulties may come up, and they're all very easily applicable to what's just come through in terms of not feeling safe and secure, not having the home, right? Being in a state of scarcity, being in a state of disconnect, not being able to receive, not being able to give, not seeing the benefit, not seeing the wisdom in everything that's come before, right? I've certainly had my own troubles in my life, and it took me a while to get to that point of like, oh, everything led to this. Okay, so rather than being in a state of shoulda, woulda, coulda, that's so in alignment with the eighth house. Then we got the how to work with it, the Four of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles. These are very slow cards. These are pause cards and also slow cards. This lunation is very much linked into the Mercury retrograde. Mercury went retrograde about 14 hours after the moon was exact. For the Americas, I believe it was still on the 4th. For the rest of the world, the 5th, very early in the morning. And the Aquarius full moon, that's the day of the midpoint of the retrograde. So it's all very in alignment. And so retrogrades cause us to pause, to go within, to reflect. So we have the Four of Swords. And this is where you know you are held by something bigger than yourself. So it's calling you to tap into that. There are Three of Swords here. That's the heart. That's what has distorted the heart frequency, right? So stopping your heart from really wanting to give and love and be and connect and all of that. And this figure is in contemplation of that and in a state of prayer. And it's not in a state of worry, but in a state of prayer. And they're calm. So this is calling you to observe the wounds, observe those swords, but notice they are not in the heart, right? So this is a reflection and maybe perhaps a meditation of that those swords are removed. That this isn't perhaps as strong as a reality as you truly think it is, because these are calling you to take steps to slowly, day by day, bring in a deeper perspective and a clarity that goes beyond this limitation. We have the Ace of Swords underneath, because this figure is seeking the true truth, divine wisdom, divine inspiration. So this can call you to just be in stillness, give yourself some space to sort of figure out, okay, well, what did this card mean to you? And allow yourself to be a bit more objective, but also calling on source, help with some inspiration to come in of like what steps to take. We then have the Knight of Pentacles, and this is about slow and steady. It's the biggest horse, it's the slowest horse. You're going to get where you need to get. It's very grounded in its energy. There's a lot of strength and courage with this horse, and this knight of putting things into practice in a day-to-day basis. Slowly do it, slowly get into your body, make an awareness of. It's just like those daily practices that are recalibrating this frequency and your emotional body into the present moment. Rather than seeing the past in the assumptions that you're making. Neither of these two cards make assumptions. This one is open to the messages, open to see what comes through. And this is very much, taking your time and putting things into practice, and that is all you can do. So this is how to amplify the intention of this moon. We've got that Three of Swords, but it's in reverse, the Eight of Wands and the Knight of Cups. So this is saying they're really holding down, acknowledging this Three of Swords isn't as real as you think it is. There may be tendrils that are still left, but this isn't your predominant reality. This isn't the main focal. This is in reverse. This is calling you to focus on that, to allow those swords to fall away, whatever may be left in that grief space. These may be swords that, in terms of giving and receiving and having healthy sort of relationships, whether that's with business partners, source, whatever it is calling you to tend to your heart. And, perhaps these swords have acted as protection, that, we can withdraw, we can restrict because we're protecting ourselves from being vulnerable. This moon is definitely, the Mercury retrograde actually was very much in alignment with creating space for vulnerability. You might want to go check out that series. But overall, this is a meditation of these swords are falling out. Whatever's left of them, they're falling out. This is no longer longer your main reality. I'm not saying it's not going to be part of it, because things take time, but they're really calling on you to get out of that. Get out of that and get on to the fact that you are moving to a different landscape. Oh, Tofinia. 8 of Wands. This is quick alignment energy. This is also Mercury in Sagittarius. You have Sagittarius in the 12th house, the hidden house, the house of mysteries. And so often there is love languages in those unconscious spaces that create distortions with our interactions with other people that we learn from our early years, that go into trauma responses and limiting beliefs. And I'm just feeling another call of saying, like, meditate that that's all coming into an alignment, right? That's no longer being discordian in those unconscious spaces of the 12th, and that focus on things just being more in flow, more in alignment for your soul's frequency. And I'm also, in terms of like an awareness that things are in alignment, it might not necessarily mean that you have to take conscious planning action around it. It's more being aware that things are coming into an alignment around these dynamics. With that fire energy, it's very instinctive. You know, it is Mercury in Sagittarius. It can be about communication. It may be doing some work around your expression, right? Think of that Aries energy. Following your intuition around when to communicate, when, like, that really aligned state, you know, when you get in that flow where it's so part of who you are, you're not even second guessing it. Don't try and hold back on those things. It's also movement as well. So there's something about shaking up your energy when you go out about in the world. Maybe do some walks out and about in the world. Doing some exercise classes. That's a bit random, but that might be for some of you. Then the Knight of Cups. This is beautiful. This is about being the true romantic in your embodiment of your emotional body. Again, really calling you to get out of that space and put it into practice. You've got 2 knights here. So this is about following your intuition, following love, seeing love everywhere, and seeing the world through rose-tinted spectacles in a really beautiful and healthy way. You know, recalibrating the emotional body, recalibrating your intuition, being guided by that Knight of Cups. It's offering up the Ace of Cups. It's offering up love. It's not restrictive. It's not isolating. It's not got those swords in the heart. Its heart's open, wanting to give and wanting to receive. So there's something around putting that into practice. And again, I'm still feeling like doing a little visual meditation of opening up your heart, of being the Knight of Cups, and bringing in this level of give and receive that's in alignment. We've got the Ace of Wands at the bottom of the deck. This is a new beginning. A new beginning in that Leo energy, a revigoration of your instincts, your energetic flow, your passions, your drives, your motivation. You know, it's really like highlighting a new cycle is starting. Now you've got 2 oracle cards. This is from the Shaman's Dream Oracle. Big fan of this deck. It's every time very powerful. So the first up is Dust Devil. Embrace the chaos, trust in the process, moving out of stagnation. Yeah, that 3 of Swords has been showing up, right? So there's a sense of, you know, that is and that 6 of Cups in reverse, very stagnant, of like there's certain limitations in your emotional body that believe the past is always going to be in the present. I mean, it is all times happening at once, but you know what I mean. The presence of the Dust Devil causes a ruckus. Some people are afraid of his chaotic nature, believing that he comes to intentionally stir things up. The truth is, you can't expect this dream ally to behave, to bring niceness, to be clean. His power is in the mess he creates as he calls for you to engage in the full cyclone of life. He represents 2 aspects to you now. The winds in your outer life appearing to throw you off course, where you assume the world is coming at or happening to you, and the winds that churn inside you, with the Dust Devil rising up from your dreamscape to help you escape your invisible chains, shackling you to the barren desert. Oh, I like that. Stop asking for things to be perfect. Awkward, messy, conflicted, exuberant, and wild is how you shift. Trust this process. The Dust Devil knows what you need when you need it. Once things settle, you will see the gleaming jewels awaiting your discovery, the wisdom awaiting integration. Okay, so they're putting that before the intention of the moon. So that feels like a lot of the dust that's kicked up has happened, and now you're going through the process of moving out of that stagnation. But I do like it that it says like trust in the process of what's going on. You know, we can get very stuck in the pain of it all, and the worry, and the expecting things to always be as they have been before. I'm certainly going through that through my own cycle at the moment, the loudest I've had for quite some time, and it's not fun. It's not fun, but all we can do is do our best. It really is that. It really is that. Okay, netcaster. Oh, it's a 6. Preparations come to fruition, a surprise, a result beyond expectations. The netcaster arrives to tell you to stop praying for the fish. They have arrived, and it's time that you cast your net, lest they swim away as fish on the Knight of Cups. Everything that you long for is within reach, but it has been so long since your prayers were answered that you've forgotten how to receive what is being offered to you. That 6 of Cups in reverse. Put down the prayer beads and open your arms and your heart to rewards beyond measure. Cast your net. Take the next step that you have been planning for so long. Remember that the fish wait for no one, so time is of the essence. One thing I do take issue with this deck, or the words of this deck, a lot of the cards are kind of like, go, go, now, now, now. If you don't, it's all going to go wrong. It's like, well, you trust your intuition. Don't be looking out for anything. Just follow your own flow. The only one who can spoil the perfection of the moment is you. If you ask, do I really deserve this? You will sabotage the magic and shatter the crystalline flawlessness of the now. The netcaster can also arrive to bring you bad news, to tell you that you've been snared in someone's trap and must wriggle free. Right now it feels comfortable enough even as the net begins to tighten around you. I feel like this could be about that 3 of Swords, right? If you just feel like yourself falling back into it, right? There's enough clues here and support to say, no, 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 it's time to sort of step out of that. Do not wait until it's suffocating you before realizing you must escape and run for your life. It's still early enough to exit gracefully. Bide your time until all the conditions are right. Go to your place of stillness, there's that 4 of Swords, of deep quiet, and watch for the signs that a new opportunity has arrived. Right now you are patient because you feel that things will go your way. Learn to be patient with the people and situations that are more challenging. Well, Capricorn, that was a lovely reading. I really enjoyed that. I hope this resonated. If it did, it would bring me great joy if you hit that like button. There is a competition. All the details are in the description box. You can enter it as many times as you like because there's 3 readings up for grabs. And Capricorn, be good to yourselves. Be good to those around you. Safe travels and be well until we meet again. Sagittarius rising. How are you doing, Sag? So regulars and those of you who might not have caught the introduction, I've had something quite drastic happen to me over the past week, which is the reason why these videos are quite late in the day. Admittedly, the moon is still in Leo, getting out. I talk about this in part 1, the introduction of part 1. And it's just kind of felt like it was quite archetypal because it's shown up in a couple of the readings as well. You might want to go and check it out. You might have been going for your own thing because a situation happened that has happened before, almost identical, and it's been quite a big energy. A cat's gone missing basically, and there's lots of circumstances around why there's a lot of grief there, and it feels quite impossible and very strange. And I need to restore my energy. I haven't slept, I haven't eaten very well, but I wanted to get these messages out. So the reason why I've pre-shuffled is just to sort of keep these videos shorter. And if you're interested, or for whatever reason, go check out the introduction of part 1 where I talk about what's happened, just because it does feel energetically linked into a lot of what's going on in the skies right now. So there's a collective reading where I break down the astrology of the new moon in way more detail, and that energy is working with us over the next 6 months. Speaking of which, I work with 6-month cycles, so you're not missing out on any of the messages that are coming through in these readings. And in that, I break down the astrology in way more detail. I'm going to be touching lightly on the astrology. Usually, regulars, you know, my videos are around an hour long, and I'm just trying to be very mindful about that. There's a collective tarot in there as well. It was a really interesting reading. And there's a competition, and all the details are in the description box, so you can enter that as many times as you want, so that's there. Now let's get on with this. So I'm reading for Sagittarius rising. For those of you who don't have Sagittarius in the first house, which is your rising sign, look to the house that it does fall in. Look to the themes of that house, and you want to apply those themes along with all the other meaning you've got going on in the sign of Sagittarius. And it will be as if that sign has now energetically moved to the first house, so the rising sign astrology will still link in. You just got to add on your natal chart meaning on top. And very funnily enough, as I was pre-shuffling these cards, a Sagittarius sun reached out to me, sent me a message. So that's always funny. Okay, so Sagittarius risings, this is in a fellow fire sign, and this is in your 9th house. Your 9th house is all about perspectives. That's the key word. This is about how we perceive things and how we understand. It's about our morals, our ethics, our philosophies, our connection to book, religion, source, nature, science, the unconscious realm, whatever it is that you know is a matrix that's bigger than you, that you know you're connected to, and understanding how you're connected, how it works, how you move through the world, how you move through society, through the universe, all of those things, how you understand yourself in regards to all of that, and it's also how you figure out your perspective. He taught the mode in which you do so. It's linked into mastery of something. That could be anything. And teaching, sharing perspectives, right? We're not here to change people's minds. It's up to them to do that. But it's all about sharing perspectives. It can also be linked into going and living somewhere for a longish period of time that is unfamiliar to you, because you then change your perspective. And it's often linked into foreign travel, as well as, say, you've lived in the city your whole life and you decide to move to the countryside. That is definitely a different perspective, as well as the astral realms, all of that jazz. So that is what's going on with this new moon, this new cycle around how you perceive the world, how you understand and map yourself out in it. And this is, the degree of this moon is just beyond where Venus ended her retrograde last year in the sign of Leo. This is really significant because we're wrapping up a big cycle here with that Venus retrograde over the last year, that you may have found yourself implementing what you learned during that Venus retrograde, figuring out all of those things in terms of the Venusian energy of love, connection, desire, creativity, fertility, all of that. Play, diplomacy and grace. And so we're, with this new moon, we're activating a new level, right? We're moving into a new cycle with all the wisdom that we've learned from that. So I think it's really powerful with that. And Venus happens to be at 29 degrees of Leo at the time of this new moon. And it's very closely conjunct the fixed star Regulus. Now, Regulus is the king, the queen energy. It's your sovereignty, it's your divinity, and you know it, right? So I love that Venus was to conjunct that fixed star, infusing with the energy of this moon, of helping us step into that power. Now, this retrograde, this lunation is also very much linked into the Mercury retrograde, which was the last series that I did. Go check that out, because this next lunation cycle is all very entwined. Because Mercury went either late on the 4th, or for the most of the world on the 5th, went retrograde. So it's very in alignment with, we're going to be going back and forth over things for a little chunk of time before perhaps we see this new moon start to manifest. It all depends. What else did I want to say? Yeah, the full moon in Aquarius is the midpoint of the retrograde, which is wild. It's wild to get that kind of astrology. We had similar stuff last year with the Mercury retrograde, with the Virgo moon. The major aspect that's going on here, I mean, there's a trine to the North Node in Aries over in your 5th house of your creation energy, but the major one is Jupiter and Mars over in the sign of Gemini, which is opposite your sign, Sagittarius. And this is the house of the other. And the other can be business partners, one-to-one clients, intimate friends, your therapist, source, and long-term committed romantic relationships. Because the house of the other, number 7, is traditionally linked into contracts. You know, it's those kind of relationships where you're committed, right? Where you step up to the plate, where it's not drifting away. There's an element of responsibility there. There's an element of care. And Jupiter and Mars are there. Jupiter, the greater benefic, the greater yes planet, and they are aspecting this moon by sextile, which is an aspect of Venus. So all of those Venusian qualities are being infused through the lens of Jupiter and Mars to this new. Sorry, I had to pause for a second because a sneeze was coming out and then it didn't come out. Oh, always so frustrating. Yeah, so the connection, appreciation, value, love, harmony, diplomacy, creativity. It's an easy, soft flowing energy with the support from Jupiter and Mars into this new moon. So Jupiter, love Jupiter and Gemini, done a Jupiter and Gemini transit, really like that one. That's for the next year. You won't have this transit for another 12 years. So if you want to amplify it, go check out that transit series. Is about bringing things together in order to expand and elevate and find a higher perspective, right? The bigger picture. There's a lot of wisdom with Jupiter, sort of the knowing and the truth of it all. It's also very generous of spirit, very jovial. Obviously, Sagittarius, you're ruled by Jupiter. You know the vibe. Abundance, luck, and all of that. And Mars is our motivation, our drive, and our action, but it can be a little bit impulsive, especially in Gemini. Very independent. There's 2 threads with this. So it's in the house of the other, right? So you've got a lot of action going on with the other. So that can be, as I said, in all those different forms. The other I find is often how we then understand ourselves in relationship to the other. If you don't have business partner, clients, long-term committed romantic relationship, I often find 7th house transits, you are more connected to source. Like your actions, your deeds are more alignment with how source shows up with that Mars energy. So there's a focal point, right? And the one of the messages with the Jupiterian energy is our actions, our impulsive actions, good, bad, beautiful, and ugly. We are going to see the wisdom and the higher perspective in the consequences of them. And just really elevate that and be able to shift gear or evolve and change, or be like, oh wow, I love what just happened. Whatever it is, we're getting a lot of support, especially with those perspectives. So you can see perhaps impulsive responses around the other that may be from distorted ideas of self, right? You know, for all the different, things that we do with the other that don't actually serve us. Realigning, you coming into an awareness, so it broadens your perspective. Oh, that's why I did that. That's where that came from. And doing some work with that 9th house energy to elevate and expand into the integrated perspective into your body, into how you move, into your embodiment of self, because the Leo energy trines Sagittarius, trines your ascendant. You've got a lot of support of embodying very quickly a higher perspective of understanding where your motivations and drives come from, especially in regards to the other, however that shows up. The other side of this is instinctively our actions are going to be embodied through the lens of Jupiter, very generous, very open, very wise. Some of you, there's definitely vibes around going traveling with a loved one. Perhaps going on a big business trip. So there's a lot of support here. But it's potentially going to bring up certain energies that, say you've got relationships in your life where your perspectives just aren't in alignment. And that's not to judge the other person. It's just sometimes there are just some core things where you're like, all of this kind of connects, but there's this thing, and it's like, no, it's not. I'm not vibing, and that's okay. That's completely fine. We're all the same thing anyway, and we're all having our own experience. And Source loves expansion and curiosity and creativity from a place of authenticity. So That's the vibe. That you're gonna have a lot of awareness around that. I can see also an elevation of perspectives and how you share them with the other. Very much the embodiment of that through your actions and your deeds, right? And it's very expansive. Can see you being very generous with the other. So let's get into the tarot. We have for the intention of the moon. So I see lunations as download points. So the download that you've got, and what's the intention of that download you're then working with over the next 6 months. We have the Magician, we have the Two of Cups, and Judgment. This is wild. This is so powerful. So this is Mercury, Pluto, and then we've got Venus in Cancer, although I do see this as a Lilith card. So the Magician, this is the intention of this moon, is to get you to the place where your perspectives embody the Magician's energy, as above, so below. That you understand you have all the resources around you, all that you need in order to manifest and create in the world. The Magician is very confident. It has an infinity symbol above its head. It's got a generator of energy. It understands the ebb and flow of time. It understands the inner and outer world. And is able to create. This is getting you to be in your Magician phase. That's so powerful. Two of Cups, union, right? We've got the masculine and feminine spirit. They are eye to eye. They are equal height. There is respect, honor, dignity. There is a willingness to an exchange. There's a willingness to give and receive. To connect, to be in a state of union. This can be your inner union of self, right? Coming into emotional alignment, love of self, really feeling very embodied in your emotional body, or in a state of union and respect of self, and truly loving, and being real with yourself as well. But if we bring in the Jupiter-Mars energy over in the sign of the other, so this may be this perspective that's coming in is opening you up for more union in your life. That mimics this. You know, whether that be source, a good business partner, clients that you share your perspective with, elevating a romantic relationship, because stepping outside of, stepping into the Magician obviously means that wasn't there before in such a great such a great space where we are at one with our environment, and so we can manifest from that space. And then we have Judgment. This is ascension energy. Also, a union within yourself and spirit, and integration of your perspectives, that the foundations are from a place of love. So Judgment, ascension energy. These are the dead. They are colored gray, which represents wisdom. This can be old versions of yourself, ancestors, past lives that may have some stuck energy within them, which means that they haven't been able to get back into flow, get back into the energy. And there's an element of sort of perhaps regret, distortions, fear, all of those stuff. This angel is playing a frequency that's raising that's raising these old versions up. They're finding the wisdom, they're finding the understanding of all that's happened before, and they're able to release and let go and get that higher perspective with that mountain range in the background. So you are elevating your perspective very high, right? And how you map yourself out in the world, that is helping clear out a lot of stuck energy with that ascension, with those the dead being raised up. That's so powerful. Right, okay, the challenge and how to work with it. Got the Six of Swords in reverse, the Two of Swords, and the Emperor. So the Six of Swords in the upright is this sort of acknowledgement that you are moving away from choppy waters into calmer ones, and taking core perspectives with you in order to thrive. So this is blocked. So there may be some resistance to, raise up. There may be some core wound within you to realize, oh no, you are moving from the old landscape, right? And that you may be stopping yourself from blocking. Okay, well, what are those core perspectives that would serve me to thrive, right? What are those core ideas? There may be just certain stuck energy within you that is resisting change. Or being uncertain of the journey of what may be. Are you good enough at the other side of it, right? So often we can have a lot of lack of value within ourselves. That means we aren't comfortable breaking out of that frequency and allowing ourselves to receive the abundance of the universe. Italia, the willingness also to reflect on what are those core perspectives that you're taking with you, right? Giving yourself the time to do so. And the cards to work with it is like, hey, no, go inward. Allow yourself some space, allow yourself some time to reflect, to pause. This figure has got to the new landscape and they are figuring out what parts of themselves from the old realm, from the old timeline, do they want to incorporate into this new realm? And what perspective of self that is now being revealed to them in this state of meditation, right? So often a lot of our who we are is hidden. And this is calling you to reflect on that, of like, okay, well, how do I want to perceive the world? It's not about what's going on in the outside world, by the way, guys, because it's not great out there, is it? I mean, it is in many places, but you know, if you focus on the news, it's not, and that's the nature of the news as we right now. That this is a solo inner experience for you. This is Libra, moon in Libra, and you have Libra in your hopes and your dreams, right? So the house of your hopes and your dreams, the house of good spirit. So it is asking you to think about that in terms of how you perceive the world. Do you want to perceive the world where your hopes and dreams don't manifest? Do you want to stay in that space? It's not with any expectations or assumptions about how it's going to turn out. It's about setting those intentions. And then we have the Emperor. Hello, Aries. Right, this is your creation energy, where the North Node is, which is trining this moon, by the way. So we're heading the energy of that North Node, of where you're heading with your creation energy, your joy, your pleasure, your amusement, children, romance, dating, right? All of those things. I've done a nodal transit series for Aries and Libra. It's in its own playlist. You might want to go check that out to sort of, tap into this energy. But this is very sovereign in your nature. This is about you. This is not about the external world. Aries, and therefore the Emperor, gets its wisdom from being often quite stubborn in not listening to anybody else and wanting to, hearing something, going yeah, whatever, but needing to go and actually experience it and understand how it feels for them before they take it as read from anybody else, right? I say that as someone who's got Aries in the 9th. I am quite stubborn. And I have to see that it works for me. I have to figure things out for myself. I can be very, very stubborn of taking the advice of anybody else. Obviously, don't go to a contrary point of view, but this is, again, what I was saying. This isn't about the outside world. It isn't about what's going on in the outside world. This is about what do you want that brings you creativity, joy, and pleasure. Right, how to amplify the energy and the intent of this moon. Well, we've got the Sun, the Ace of Wands, and the Knight of Wands. Couldn't get any more fire energy if we wanted to. So this is cool. This is very interesting. So that 5th house, Aries, inner child stuff, right? So there's something around the inner child, wounds around the inner child that have perhaps blocked and kept you in that not wanting to move on, because children obviously get very sort of shaken up and want to stay safe. Because we've got the Sun. This is the vision, the clarity, the animation. The Sun loves being in the 9th. It's its favourite house to be. So you've got a great transit at the moment. The vision, the clarity, the animation, the joy, the freedom, the liberation. You see this inner child. It's free and easy on this horse moving around. So there's something about tapping into joy, finding those spaces, finding those moments to see the light, to see the lightness in your life. Where do you find joy? Where do you find play? And bring that into your perspective and really harness that. You might want to look to where your sun is in your natal chart as well to give some more clues. We've got the Ace of Wands. Then act on the inspiration. Right, this is fire is instinctive. So the compulsion, the instinctive compulsion. After sort of perhaps meditating on the sun card, finding that joy, or just letting that energy come through you, being in the sun. And then seeing what your instincts are guiding you to do. And then putting them into action, right? This is the embodiment of fire, of taking it out on the road, playing around with holding space, even if it might feel a bit delusional, for this, and taking it out on the road. Now, we had a lot of stuff going on with the other. And so what I feel like, even though I've kind of focused on that 9th house, is there is, I think, this might not be for everybody, but when you connect to source or you're going about one-on-one with somebody, there's going to be moments of joy, moments of pleasure, and I want you to sort of either write them down or just lock them into your energetic field. Some of you might be going out on adventures with one-on-one, intimate friend, whatever it is, that is potentially going to lead to synchronicities that are going to help elevate your perspective. But I say that I'm not trying to limit anybody of that's the only thing that you can do. And if it's not happening to you, it's not part of the journey. There are other things in here. But overall, I do just feel that embodiment. And trying to bring that love, that joy, that playful energy of Leo into your the other, right? Even if there may have been some old wounds, some old pains, there's an element of doing that every day where you're able to bring joy and give and receive joy. Because we've got the Strength card at the bottom of the deck. This is the Leo energy, and this is about your instinctive mammalian energy and your higher mind working together through love and kindness. They're not trying to dominate one another. They are not trying to take advantage of each other's vulnerabilities and strike, right? So there's a sense of love, there's a sense of joy being cultivated here, and that strength of your perspective is being elevated. And you've got the 2 cards that have the infinity symbols, so this is pretty powerful of a closing out of a loop and activating a double loop. So while I was shuffling the oracle cards, these 3 came out. And I put them back, and then I sort of was like, no, I think I'm not going to read them, but I think the message is quite straightforward in and of itself. You do have another oracle card, which I will read, and I think this is very valid to the message here. We've got mindful group think. We have the wall obstacle. So there's something about the collective energy that has created an obstacle of perception, of assumptions, of expectations. That this transit is helping release. We've got a tidy house, clarity and organization, and this is kind of all about the energetic tidying of your house, right? The internal and external, and I feel like that is helping you then clear the deck. So you could do like an energy clearing, like a visualization of tidying your house, that's clearing the obstacles and the groupthink out, that's allowing your energy to be back into a state of dominance rather than restricted. Okay, the card that you got was the Drifter. Experience life as it comes. What lights you up? Experiencing life as it comes, seeking the essence but not knowing the form. The Drifter invites you to step out of your to-do list and your ordinary routine, to feel the breeze against your skin, calling you to follow the wind and explore life's opportunities. When the Drifter appears, it's a sign that it's time to cut the mooring lines holding you to the dock. It's not important to know the destination before you set sail. It will become clear as you leave port. Do not wait for a map, as there are none to where you are destined to go. That's so funny, because the ninth house is often like how you map yourself out in the world. So this is like really open, like the magician understands everything around it is a resource. It doesn't have to try and control the environment. It has the capacity of understanding how to work with those resources. And so I feel like that then frees you of needing to have a map, because you're in flow with your environment. But be sure that you have a compass to keep you true. Yours is a pure love, and your intention to be free, even of your own beliefs and preconceptions. Few appreciate the energy of the drifter. Here you might not seem to be doing anything worthwhile or meeting someone else's expectations, but you are the only one who understands that others are running full out on the hamster wheel and getting nowhere. Your laziness is an unappreciated virtue. You know that life will find you and bring you everything you require without your having to search for it, by simply being instead of frantically doing. Even as you let your mind wander, releasing it to go on a daily walkabout, call it back home regularly to deliver news from the cosmos. Oh, I like that. That could be the sort of meditation at the end of the day, of you calling your mind back and saying, okay, what have you got for me today? The drifter helps you find what you are looking for, even when you didn't think you were seeking anything. Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful message of like activating a perspective of being in the flow, right? So we kind of have this, right, of road. You got two horses of fire is very instinctive, you know that, as a fire sign. So there's something around allowing those instincts to sort of take the rein a little bit more, with a really open heart. Okay, Serge, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did. If you did, if it resonated, it would bring me great joy if you hit that like button. There's a competition. I can't remember if I mentioned it at the beginning. All the details in the description box. You can enter it as many times as you like. There are 3 readings up for grabs. Sagittarius, be good to yourselves. Be good to those around you. Safe travels, and be well until we meet again.